Hey, remember the good old days when you had rappers like these to listen to, looking for a message or you just want to hear some impressive word flow from them? If you don't share this sentiment, then I know someone you've spoken to at least has, that rappers nowadays are all about gimmicks and antics and kind of not about the music anymore. I think largely it's because of these two. When these two passed away, it cemented them as legends forever. And now that everybody who is from the generation of these two listen to music nowadays, it's always set to the standard of these two. And it's really hard on new artists to live up to that. I also think it's just a generational thing. You love the music you grew up listening to. It's just how it is. If whatever you're going through life and the music you listen to as you progress through life is going to be whatever you love to listen to more than whatever comes out after, because after you feel like it's losing its way. Now, back then we also had, like I touched on a little bit earlier, wordsmiths, people who could craft words in their songs, and add that very, very real lyrical ability to everything they were rapping, and it was very unique at the time, and it proved that you had to be talented to do this. Back then, rap was always very message orientated too. Um, Back then you had things like this song by Tupac, Brenda Had a Baby, songs that would really make you feel something after hearing the story of it. Back then the style was a lot different too, fashion was a big thing. Well, it wasn't as big as it is now, but back then starting trends were settling in, and after seeing this, you could see that what people wear today is not really a stretch. Um, yeah, uh, back then during the 90s, it was also coming off of the crack epidemic that was happening in the 80s, which ravaged the inner city. So now you have people who are dealing the drugs that were ruining the stuff 10 years prior. Now the dealers are seeing rap as a way to really make it out and make some legit real money. And as far as my knowledge goes, two of my names are based off of the two most famous rappers. Christopher comes from Biggie, and Amaru was Tupac's middle name. So just based off of that, I was listening to a lot of '90s rap growing up just from my parents. Uh, as for trends that are happening now, they were smaller trends back during the '90s. You had this guy on the left, ODB, who, when he rapped, it was very unorthodox and he was mumbling at times, which is what majority of people do now, or so other people would say. And this guy on the right was very unorthodox because of how he rapped in his music videos. Then you have Lil Wayne, who came up from the South, and it really gave the South a voice finally. They now have their own unique style of rap. And him being as big as he did was just bound to have people admire him and, take things from the way he rapped into how they're mold their careers now. And more so, I think with Kanye West, he really molded a new sound, and he also proves that no matter where you're from, you don't even have to rep it in your music, but you can have a revolutionary sound. It's not really from any part of the country. And on a producing level, he's legendary, and he's influenced a lot of people today. Now, these three groups of people are rappers today. Every single one of these people are unlike the ones to the left or to the right of them. They all have a very unique style and flow and image behind their rapping careers. And I think this is the most diverse that rap has ever been in terms of style and people in general. Tragically, recently we lost a rapper named XXX Tentacion. He was our generation's Tupac, in my opinion. Uh, Seeing somebody so young with so much potential die as tragically as he did really gave our generation perspective on how the older generation felt when Tupac died. Now, this guy right here is this is Lil Pump. He is the image behind everyone's hatred towards the new generation. Colored dreads, face tats, and a lot of drug use that I'm about to touch on later. But yeah, this is a growing trend now. Speaking of colored hair, this guy on the left is built off of the antics of starting trouble with other rappers and having his music sales skyrocket because of it. And this guy on the right is he only put out one hit song, just one, but he's still famous because and I cannot make this up, he claims that he is a clone of his original self. Now, as for these two people, this kind of shows what I was speaking on earlier about the drug use. In the 90s, we had the drug dealers. Now we have the drug abusers. And I think this is directly from the all of the selling of drugs back in the 90s. You now have the people you were selling them to rising up because there's so many of them. Lil Pump's most recent album, Harvard Dropout, flopped, and it really proved to everyone that even though his audience was mainly children and just younger people, that if you put the same thing out over and over and over, people will eventually just stop listening. So it just ruins that misconception. These are two new rappers, very unorthodox styles. Ski Mask raps very fast and very melodically. And on the right, Blueface is a new rapper who literally raps off beat, like really, really off beat, and people love him right now. This is also the most diverse that the genre has ever been in terms of its audience and its artists. On the left, we have a Canadian guy named Nav who has a Middle Eastern background. On the right, we have Post Malone, who's a rapper but also makes pop hits like every week. He has a new one that's charting on the top 100 Billboard charts. And this stat sheet right here, this chart shows how rap is now the most listened to streaming music genre in the world right now, and recently surpassed pop and rock on most listened to worldwide, and it just kind of proves what I was saying before.